Hey Anna,
Hey, Mike.
so I've been playing around on Doghood again.
Oh, yes. How's it going?
Well, really good because they got a new events sort of section, and it's prompted me. Ira and all the good folk at All Dogs Matter. They've got a post up here reminding me that they're doing their spooktacular Halloween dog walk, which I completely forgot about. Which is just around the corner, will be on the Heath, and it's on Sunday, the 29th of October. So I've got that reminder now. I will plan to be there rather than thinking about it way too late and missing it like I did last year.
Brilliant. Well, I'm going to be there this year, so that'd be a great opportunity to meet up. But that's kind of what the Doghood app's all about, really. It's meeting like-minded people and sharing fun times with your dog. So your dog's not at home, your dog's with you, and you're meeting new friends.
Definitely. So, where can folk get this new Doghood app?
They have to go to the App Store, and it's doghoodapp.com. And it just works on iPhones at the moment, but that won't be for long. So it's the doghoodapp.com.
And there'll be a handy link in the show notes.
Exactly. All the links are always in the show notes, aren't they, Mike?
Always spend all my time cutting and pasting links.
Doghoodapp.com. Hey, Mr. Binks, you know how dogs have been more in the news than ever lately. Well, that's why we're jumping on Zoom now to talk to the CEO of All Dogs Matter about dogs in general, but also about the impending, sad, tragic situation revolving around XL bullies. I'm Anna Webb. Welcome to A Dog's Life. Ira Moss, welcome back to A Dog's Life.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's been ages since we actually caught up properly on the podcast, and a lot's been happening. And yeah, I just can't wait to chat, really, to get the update from you as to now what's going on, really, on the front line with dogs.
Well, a lot. There's quite a lot going on since, well, I'm not sure when we last sort of spoke on your amazing show, but since lockdown, which is now since quite a while, I don't know, 2, 3 years away, a lot has happened and a lot has changed in the world of dogs and dog rehoming and adopting.
Yeah, I mean, particularly at the minute, I would have thought with the recent news, that we're going to ban the XL bully. And,
Yeah.
I'm interested to know, have you had a bit of an influx of XL bully types? Because obviously they're not a defined breed as such, and they vary in their looks a lot, which is a massive issue, which
Yes.
we'll discuss. Because that's a worry for you, because if these dogs are handed in, legally, if they're banned, you're not allowed to rehome them because they're and so their fate, is pretty grim.
They're kind of sadly being a lot of them are being bred basically just to die. Really, that's going to be the fate of most of them, like it is and was with the pit bulls. When they brought the pit bull ban in, most of these dogs, you don't tend to see many old pit bulls walking around. You'll see old staffies and staffy crosses, but you won't see many old pit bulls, and I don't think you'll see many old XL bullies, because sadly a lot of the people that tend to buy them don't really think of the sort of next 12, 15 years of their lives. They're just a quick fix. And I don't think they either think or really care about the implications and what's going to happen to these dogs. And we've been seeing an increase of XL bullies coming in. Well, for the last few months, actually, I'd say we're seeing a lot more dogs in the last sort of 3 to 6 months, but particularly the XL bullies. And the typical call is, oh, they've grown a bit big and I've got, 2 kids, I can't cope, I'm on my own. And yeah, the clue's in the name, they're an XL bully, that's why they grow big. The average size is between 50 and 70 kilos. And if you can't afford to feed one of these dogs properly, then sort of don't buy one. And let's remember that the price of these dogs, I mean, there's one winner here, and it's the breeders. Not now that they've sort of dropped in value, but these dogs were at the beginning of lockdown, when they became the new status dog. The average price of them was £2,000 or £3,000. There's sort of no excuse to say, oh, I can't afford to feed my dog, in my opinion.
Well, I think that goes for lots of the breeds bought through lockdown, wasn't it, Ira?
Yeah,
Because
but if you're talking about
even
a 70-kilo dog,
yeah, no, absolutely.
obviously it's
I know. I mean, let's work out 3% of I don't know if my Mike listening in, my loyal producer might have to do the maths for me, but we want 3% of 70, and that will work out the amount of food that an average XL bully would eat on an average day. So meanwhile, as that calculation is going on,
don't ask me. I'm not here to do the maths.
no, nor am I. But it's mad. But so many breeds went up in price, and people paid ridiculous sums of money for
gosh, I mean,
dogs.
during lockdown, I mean, people were paying the price of probably what you and I, because we're similar age, paid for our first cars. The average price of a dog, I think pre-lockdown was say 500 to maybe £1,000 for the Frenchies and things like that. And now, well, it's gone down again, but the prices were crazy. I mean, the average price of a dog was £2,500 to £5,000. And why? How would anyone pay that kind of money to buy a dog? And unfortunately, what's happened? They've become a commodity because of it. We've turned dogs into a commodity. They're big business. And, so that's what I'm saying. Ultimately, the winners here are not all of them, obviously, I'm not saying everyone, but in a lot of cases are the breeders, and the XL bullies and the Frenchies and those kinds of breeds tend to be backstreet bred inner city dogs. I shouldn't say inner London, we're in London, but inner city dogs. People earning lots and lots of money out of them, but these dogs, sadly, not making it through to probably past the age of 3, maybe. We're seeing huge amounts coming in. We're also seeing a massive rise, and in fact the highest, because as you just mentioned, Anna, and you're quite right, you can't define what an XL bully is. We have an idea in our mind, and the dog wardens that pick them up when they are abandoned will have an idea of what an XL bully may look like. And for those of you who don't know, again, correct me if you don't agree with me, but kind of almost sort of slightly strangely shaped, too much chest, making them bandy-legged and almost a bit sort of dinosauric with a huge watermelon head. So that's the definition of an XL bully. But the highest single breed that we now have coming in to rescue, which some of you will be probably quite surprised to hear, is the French Bulldog.
Well, it doesn't surprise me. They're not easy, Frenchies. They are little bull breeds. They won't be able to kill someone, which sadly, we're in that situation with the XL bully. But they're not the most biddable of dogs, and they have moods, and they're not the easiest to train at all.
You sound like you're talking about my dog, Anna, who's a French Bulldog that I got from the charity.
I'm talking more about my own dog, Prudence.
You've got this spot on that, my little French Bulldog, Mimi, is exactly all those things you just said. Yeah. And, again, people were paying £5,000. We got Mimi, my one, came from a litter that was taken away from one of the London boroughs. They were being sold on one of the estates for £5,000 each. The council found out, which is unusual because they don't often get involved, but it was kind of, well, you can't sell on, make a business out of selling dogs on a council property. So you either hand the property back or the dogs come away. And in this case, the dogs were handed over. But what we're seeing again now, 2-3 years down the line, the Frenchies we're getting in are typically, not always, but typically, the females are coming in after they've been used for breeding and they can't breed off them anymore. And again, as you'll know, most Frenchies need to have a cesarean birth. So it's going to cost the breeder more money to have a litter. And in a lot of cases, they're not going for those cesareans. So, there's probably a lot of fatalities. And we actually think now through research that maybe a lot of the dogs that aren't having the cesareans and maybe are trying to give birth naturally, or the bitches, are having some brain damage, which is because there's lack of oxygen, they're stressed, and maybe that's why we're seeing a lot more coming in with behavioural issues.
That's really interesting, because this whole lack of oxygen thing, it's something I've thought about for quite a long time, what with my Prudence having had a surgery that sort of has compromised her throat basically, and she had fluid on the lung and all sorts of things, so her breathing hasn't been what it was. So I'd love to do a study on the effect, but obviously if you don't get oxygen to your brain, you get brain starved, don't you? So
and it's just one thought. I mean, I say this isn't anything written in science, but
no, but it's so
it's
yeah, right. It kind of totally makes sense to me. I've been thinking about this for the last 3 years, Ira. So, but obviously you can build from there, and you can recoup brain cells that may have been, damaged.
Yes, and with the right training and care,
exactly.
You can, but they're
but you need the right owners for that.
You need the right owners, and they have a lot of health issues. Apart from that, if there is such science in that, they tend to have a lot of health issues. And again, if you're going to spend £2,500 to £5,000, if you can afford to spend that money on a dog, take out insurance. And what we're seeing are a lot of people, I'm not saying everyone has to take out insurance, but the breeds that are going to probably get certain health issues, like a French Bulldog, take out insurance. Because the other reason we're seeing so many coming in is when they arrive, they're coming in such terrible states. A lot of them need the Boas surgery, which with a short flat face, ear problems, breathing problems, all sorts of things. So what's happening is these dogs are coming into the charities now, and each dog is costing us, when I say us, I'm talking about collectively charities, a deficit of probably £1,000, because if you get 5 French Bulldogs in a month, and they won't all need Boas, but say 3 of them do, work the math. I mean, we're very lucky that we've got a couple of vets that we work with, and they're very good at helping us. But you're talking about at least £1,000 to get Boas done on a Frenchie or a bull, any of the bull breeds. Pugs or another one.
Yeah, exactly. And that, of course, drains your resources.
Yeah, because you can still only rehome your dogs for a certain amount of money, and where people are struggling a little bit more financially, donations will go down. So say our adoption fee is, let's say, £250. Before, people would say, oh, here's £300, but most people will give you that £250, which is fair enough. But that dog that you're rehoming for £250 has probably cost you or us £1,000 on average.
And the time and the effort to
and the
care
time
for
and the
dog.
effort and the whole setup. And it's so sad because these dogs have started off, this is why I find it really upsetting, that they've just become a commodity. So they've started off on sale at £5,000, and they've ended up, because people don't want to pay or can't afford, or just aren't interested in paying the vet bills, and that's when they're just literally thrown out or passed on to someone else online who doesn't understand the full implication. They'll just rehome them to anyone that comes along. They then pass them along to someone else, and on top of the medical issues, you've then suddenly got behavioural issues like separation anxiety through sky high, because these dogs may have had, by the time they come into the charities, they've often had an average of 3 to 6 homes per dog. God. Because they're worth, now the XL bullies, the reason they're now being given away is because they're very, very hard to home. No one wants them anymore. So they're worth no retail value whatsoever. And I think that's another reason why we're seeing so many accidents, because people are giving them, the people that have got them, they can't sell them, so they're giving them away for free. Or if you can imagine, you can't even give this dog away for free. So what do you do? An irresponsible person, you're not bothered about what other people may happen to the dog or other people. So you leave that dog tied up to a park bench, for example, or in a park. The dog gets stressed. We're talking about a 50 to 70 kilo dog. It pulls away from its leash, and suddenly it's running around a park with people screaming, and you can see, because the dog's stressed and confused, and you can see it all going terribly wrong.
Yeah, very quickly as well. That's the awful thing. And it's not the dog's fault. That's the issue. And lots of people do own XL bullies, and they are really, Jordan Shelley, for example,
of course.
and Basil, that's his name, is a super dog. And of course,
and we've got XL bullies that we've rehomed. We've got a couple on our website now. If you go on the All Dogs Matter website, you'll see Loki, and a couple of others, and we've got Ralphie. They're lovely dogs. They've all been abandoned, but then they're lovely dogs. But if it is going to go wrong, it can go wrong very quickly and very badly.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, I mean, what do you think then about, the proposed ban, Ira? Do you think it's going to be absolute carnage? Do you think it's a waste of taxpayers' money? What do you reckon to the welfare of the dogs?
I think we have to do something. I'm not sure exactly how many deaths or fatalities there's been so far this year, but I'd say there's probably at least 8 fatalities.
I think
I
it's
think
more, it's more, it's
more.
more, Ira. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And you know what? It's not. Sadly, it's not. It isn't the dog's fault, and I just think it's just too easy for anyone. I've got 12-year-old step grandchildren. That sounds confusing, but 12-year-old step grandchildren. And you know what? All these kids are good online at the moment. They can all do anything. And if I gave one of them the challenge, the oldest one of 12, and said, go online and see if you can get an XL bully for free or for £50. I bet you they could get one and walk away with that dog. That's how easy it would be for anyone to get one of those dogs. So I really think that it's just too easy for people in this country, or probably lots of countries, to be able to go and get and buy and breed these kinds of dogs. It's just too easy. Anyone.
Well, what you're touching on there, though, Ira, is online sales. I mean, this is what I
Online
want to
sale. I've
see
been saying it for years.
completely banned.
That's my pet subject. I've been harping on for years and years about online sales, and no one wants to do anything. The kind of, I could probably say it on your
Yes.
platform, your gum trees and your pre-loves of this. It's too much revenue for them. Pets for homes, that's another major one now. Too much money for them. They're not interested if someone dies or gets attacked. What do they care, as long as they can get their revenue in? And that's where it needs to stop. But no one seems to. It's so easy, in my opinion. It's so black and white, but just no one wants to kind of, if someone was advertising guns or lions online or drugs online, they wouldn't be allowed to. But in my humble opinion, advertising a dog that is going to get to, possibly, again, I keep harping on about 75 kilos because that's what I believe the maximum weight is, that it should not be so easy for that, if because they are used as weapons, to be able to be bought online that easily. And now what we're seeing is we're getting breeders, if you call them breeders, ringing us up and going, I've got a litter of 6 dogs, I can't sell them, I've sold 2, do you want the rest? And we don't want to take them in, because in theory, we may have to put those puppies to sleep if we can't rehome them.
Exactly.
And then you think, oh my God, if you don't take them, what's going to happen to these poor dogs?
I know.
So you're damned if you do and damned if you don't.
But surely, you see, the way to fix it, in my view, would be for government to really step in with these gum trees and all the other ones.
Totally.
And stop it, because they must have the power. Because anyone in their right mind doesn't buy a dog of a Chihuahua, an XL bully, a Frenchie, or any animal actually online, because it's a living creature.
I think you'll find that most people that have bought dogs in the UK will have bought them online, and when the cockapoo type dogs, let's kind of go down the cockapoo route, or those cockapoo type crosses, they tend to be more of a puppy farm dog. And if you suggest that to an owner, oh, did you get it from puppy farm? Well, they go, oh no, it was a very nice farm in the country and they were lovely people and it was all an accident. I think people believe what they want to believe. And we are seeing cockapoos coming in with behavioural issues, not as many. And of course, their retail value lasts a bit longer, because if they were bought for £2,000, most cockapoo type owners could probably still sell that dog online for £1,000. And they want that half the money back, which pre-lockdown wasn't happening. So dogs were, when they were bought for £500, they were no longer wanted. They were pretty much being handed over to charities. But now people don't want to do that because they want half of that money back, because it's such a huge amount of money.
You see, this is where I'm so cross that the animal welfare bill, KEP bill, was shelved, basically, because that was going to look at this online sales aspect as a way of curbing puppy smuggling. Because at the moment, puppy farmers have got like this massive shop window to sell puppies that have been, cruelly bred and in like a factory farming environment that is totally breaking every aspect of every animal welfare bill. So that's also not good. And of course, these puppies, don't have the best start in life. So they're not going to be the best puppies for people to buy.
And also, should we not blaming ourselves? I just think dogs have become, they're just too fashionable. Everyone's got a dog, and if not one, they've got 2. We need to stop this obsession about everyone having a dog, and if not one, two, you know, I mean, I'm seeing people walking around in matching pairs now. I don't know if you've noticed that. I'm sure your producer might have noticed, you know, on Hampstead Heath, people seem to have matching pairs, you know. And why do we have to have, why does everyone have to have a dog? Why do we have to have two? You know, rescue a dog if you want another one, or just don't get one. You don't have to have two dogs. We don't all have to have a dog.
No, but you see, roll back the clock to 2002 and there were hardly any dogs in London. When you saw a dog in London, you were like, oh my God, look.
A dog, yeah.
And it was brilliant. You'd really talk to them and it was so exciting. And then I moved to Lamb's Conduit Street where there's lots of parks like Corran Fields and you've got Lincoln's Inn and it still is all pedestrianised.
I love Lamb's Conduit Street. I used to work there. It's of course where Great Ormond Street Hospital is.
Yeah, exactly.
We do go in there with our dogs and visit the kids. I love it around there.
No, it's gorgeous. And that's where Molly grew up, actually, my first mini bull. And we met lots of like-minded people. It was very small, you know, and the problem is, I think, because then there were no professional dog walkers and there definitely weren't any doggy daycare centres. So, you know, I had to manage. I was freelance and luckily we were above a shop. So there was always someone who could, there was plenty of support around for moles. So that wasn't an issue. And I used to just take her with me to meetings. So it was, but how mad was that? You know, I was asking, is it all right if I bring Molly to the meeting? You know, and everyone knew they had to say yes because no wasn't an answer. So it was really quite strange and brilliant. Then suddenly, you know, so you managed if you had a dog and you had to really juggle life. But then suddenly, oh, we don't have to walk our dogs anymore because we hire a dog walker. Oh, we don't have to clip our dog's nails anymore because we go to the groomers. There weren't any groomers in London.
No, well, and you, Anna, you and I, we're both kind of a little bit into our hair. I'm not trying to say we're completely vain, but I've always gone for flat, you know, like yourself, sort of short-coated, flat-coated dogs. Apparently you can't get a dog grooming appointment for love nor money. We could get our hair cut a lot quicker.
Really?
Than apparently apparently there's like 4 to 6 waiting weeks.
God, that's mad. Well, luckily I bathe my own dogs. I mean, you know, because they are the dogs they are, I bathe my own. I trim my own dog's nails.
And it's not cheap. You know, again, to groom your dog, you're talking about, I think it's about £40 a groom. You know, it's you know, it's a lot of money. It's good for those groomers. They're they're sort of earning, you know, there's lots of new businesses that have probably come out of that. And I agree, you know, I think that's great that there are new businesses that have emerged since lockdown because there's a demand for it. And I think that's great. But, you know, you've got two curly haired dogs and you're grooming them, you know, twice, you know, every 6 weeks, let's say. It's expensive.
And of course it is, particularly at the minute, you know, that's the thing. And I just feel,
well, again, if you know, don't get these kinds of dogs or breeds, I suppose, if you can't afford it. And it seems to be a lot of people, despite what we're saying, a lot of people seem to be affording it. So, you know, great if you can. Fair comment. But, you know, the doodles, you know, are even more unregulated than the pedigree dogs. I mean, with the pedigree dogs, you know, this is one of my biggest bugbears. So long as you do go to a kennel club assured breeder for a particular breed of dog, like say a miniature bull terrier, then you know you're going to get dogs that have come from health tested parents. Generally speaking, 99.9% of the time, these puppies have been reared in really a good environment with people who know what they're doing because they care for their breed of dog and they don't breed many litters. And you've been on a waiting list and you finally got your puppy after waiting 2 years. That's how it always used to be. Yeah, I don't think those 2-year waiting lists really exist anymore. I think even the sort of the good or the better kennel club breeders, I think they're, you know, I think they've, you know, there's a lot of money in it, you know, and I think people, not many people want to turn away that kind of money. And if they have an opportunity, sadly, I think people are cashing in on it. And it's, you know, untaxed. I'm not sure about the proper breeders, but just think another bugbear that I have. People are earning probably in some cases £50,000 per litter of dogs, or have been. It's probably all untaxed. It's all cash, and we're feeding that. You know, we're kind of promoting that, and we're all very quick to be politically correct on everything, but we don't seem to mind handing over £2,500 into someone's account who's just probably, I don't know what they're going to do with it. Go on holiday, or you know, I don't know.
Yeah, and then you've got the aspect of all the scamming that went on through lockdown and probably still does. Give us £500 for a deposit
and we'll deliver
puppy.
your dog.
Yeah, and then there was no puppy. And then government, has promised so much and delivered nothing right now, apart from banning another breed, which, you know, what people I think don't realise is it will cost the UK taxpayer multi-millions of pounds, because we know what it will cost from what it cost before, except it will have gone up with inflation, and we could spend that money so much more proactively. That's what I think is a great shame.
Yeah, but I agree with what you're saying. The problem is, and I think you and a lot of your listeners won't realise, because you're not sitting on the end of a phone in a rehoming charity, how many calls we're getting a day. And as soon as there's been another attack, those calls will jump up. So if you can imagine, we as a sort of, medium-sized charity are getting 10 calls a day, and everyone that calls says, oh, I've rung every charity, no one will take the dog in. And when you say, when you say to these people, why do you want to rehome your dog? Well, we know the answer is because they've just heard another dog's been attacked, another person's been attacked, and they're scared. But they want that. It sounds like I'm being really callous, but what is going to happen to all these dogs? And there probably will be a ban, because they are potentially dangerous because of the whole subject we just spoke about. What do you do? And sadly, most of these dogs are going to end up being put to sleep.
Yeah.
I know people don't like to hear that, but it's the sad truth. And that is what ultimately. But
the problem is going to be, isn't it, that loads of dogs that might look like an XL bully, right, will also get put to sleep, and then it's going to engage lots of expert witnesses are going to earn money out of it. Lawyers are going to earn money out of it. It's going to become this whole money earning exercise to get innocent dogs out of these kennels.
But who are going to get these dogs out of kennels? Who are those people going to be? If a responsible owner's got one of these dogs, that dog's not going to end up. I mean, but they're all going to be seizable, whether they're running around your park off lead, or whether you're just walking down the street with a dog nicely walking to heel. I don't think I just don't think there's enough police around to seize these dogs, even if they wanted to. I mean, I think the police I know we think they are, but I don't think they're completely stupid if they've got a dangerous dog unit, or a dog warden sees them. If they see someone who they feel looks fairly responsible, and that dog's on a lead and on a muzzle, and they'll probably ask them. I don't think they're going to seize them, because I don't think they have the time to do that. But if one is left tied up in a park and it's looking very underweight and it's broken loose, will that owner that dog may have been shipped to want to go through the whole hassle of spending £20,000 to get their dog back? Sadly, I think there's a very, very low percentage of that happening.
Well, yeah, Mike's just messaged me in my ear to say a 70-kilo XL bully will eat 2.1 kilograms of food a day.
Right, and I suppose there's food and there's food. That could be £10 a day, or that could be £20 a day, depending on what you decide to feed that dog.
Well, yeah, and we know that nutrition affects behavior. So, arguably the more cheaper food is going to make the dog more hyper, less nourished, prone to illness as well, prone to vet bills. So that's not always the right option. So, yeah, the circle continues, doesn't it? Mm.
It does. And after the XL bully, there'll probably be another breed. Until
this is the other thing. This is the other thing. I mean, there are a lot of big dog breeds out there. I don't know. I just feel we need to take a leaf out of some of the other countries in the world,
totally,
and just look at what they're doing and how they manage living with dogs. I'm half Swedish because I'm really proud of it. So I love Scandinavia, and their approach on so many levels is completely polar opposite to what we do here.
And I agree. I mean, I'm not Scandinavian anyway, but I used to do some work in Scandinavia and Sweden particularly, and just so thoughtful on everything, and just so not organised in a sort of Germanic type way, but just everything's thought out. They're not rational, and things are done that make sense. But here, I don't know, we just can't seem to manage that very well at the moment,
No, I know, exactly, and they move with the latest science as well. And I think that's something that's so important on a dog behaviour level, and nutrition and health, this is my cat just playing this is the feral cat, Ira. Welcome to A Dog's dog's life, Baggy. Oh.
Well, apparently, you know, not only dogs, apparently cats is an all-time high of cat abandonment at the moment, and cats needing to go into charities. It's great that you got a feral one.
Well, this is the problem. Well, with Bags, I mean, you know, Gremlin sadly was poisoned and had an untimely death. You know, my cat that I adored. So basically, you know, 7 weeks ago, this cat that's here now landed on my doorstep like random. I mean, that's only happened to me twice in my life. Once with Gremlin, but he was fit and young and amazing and loved dogs and loved Molly. So that was that story. And then he's arrived, Baggy, and he was, you know, in need of help. I mean, he's still not totally right yet, but we're getting him a lot better. And it's settling down actually with the dogs. So it's, in a way, you know, he's arrived here for a reason, and he loves eating raw food. So I think he's been feral and he's got testicles. I mean, and he's had a broken jaw, but he is beautiful. He will be. Anyway, the point was, there were no rescues that could take him in. So what was I supposed to do? You know, throw him? I couldn't do that. So, and luckily, you know, I've got a garden. So he lived in the garden for the first few days, you know, because his skin was extremely bad. I mean, he was bald and it was awful. And he obviously had worms and he was terribly thin. So we've done pretty well, you know. So yes, and why not have him, you know?
They say cats have 9 lives, so maybe it's Gremlin come back in his 9th, you know.
You never know, you know. I think the thing is with cats, they do fascinate me. Gremlin taught me so much about cats, and I do think people, you know, should consider bringing a cat into your life, maybe not a dog. You know, maybe
start off with a cat. They're so much more independent, and if you, you know, and that you know, I agree. You know, I mean, maybe all this should be. We could bring it into the school educational curriculum. Maybe this animal education needs to be sort of taught at schools.
I think so. I think because dogs have reached, I mean, look, we're living with more dogs now than we ever have done in 20,000 years, you know, so dogs are really around us. And of course, the one thing you learn if you are a responsible dog owner is that when you go out with your dog, you have to understand that you're never far away from someone who might be allergic to dogs, might have a deep fear of dogs, might be culturally not inclined to like dogs. All these things are fair enough. And your dog has to really, you know, meet the bar. You know, you've got to have a well-behaved dog, particularly in an urban environment where you've got lots of people around. You know, dogs have to interact with people correctly, and that takes a lot of work, and it takes a lot of commitment from the owner to achieve that. You can't just, I never understand about these residential training things. Well, someone rang me the other day, Ira, and said, will you take my multi-poo in for residential training for 2 weeks? And you know, it's not a service I offer, because I also think, no, I can train the dog, but that doesn't mean to say you're going to have a relationship with the dog when the dog returns in 2 weeks. You know,
exactly.
I'll have the relationship with your dog, but not you.
No, I'm hearing that people that get in working breeds and then suddenly think, oh, I can't cope with this dog, and they're sending them off to these training camp type places for these trainers to train them. And then, of course, they come back, they're a completely different dog. They're often quite traumatized. And the person that couldn't handle their working dog, let's say a spaniel or a Vizsla to begin with, still can't, you know. So you know, it's like having a baby and handing it off, you know, to a nanny to look after for the first year or 6 months. You know, what is the point? I mean, training classes, yes, of course, I agree with, and I think it should be mandatory that you get a dog, you go to training classes, but yeah, just to hand it off to someone else to do the sort of you know, we often get we're quite shocked by sometimes, you know, people that want to ring us up to adopt dogs, and the dog they apply for maybe 2 years old, and they go, oh, is it house trained? And we'll always be quite honest, because we don't want to just give dogs to people, you know, we can never guarantee anything. And we go, well, actually, no, not always. And they're like, really? It's 2 years old and it's not house trained? Well, because this dog has, the reason it's with us is because it's been passed around and no one's bothered to house train it or do whatever with it, you know.
But you know, I always think, you know, people are so worried about house training. You know, that is the main problem with puppies, the house, you know, the toilet training. And I say to people, look, don't worry, it will come. You know, they haven't got control of their bladder until they're 22 weeks old anyway, but obviously there are a lot probably older coming from All Dogs Matter, but you know what I mean. So it's like there's so much more you have to be teaching your puppy right now. than worrying about if it does the odd pee on your carpet. You know, you've brought a dog into your life now. It's the ups and downs that you go through. So it is funny what generally the priorities are, you know, and they're not the priorities that you should be prioritizing. But going back to cats, you've rehomed a few cats, haven't you?
We do rehome. We do, you know, if and where we can, we do rehome cats. But it's sad again, you know. I'm sure, I don't know the price of a cat at the moment, but they're not obviously going to be any, I don't think they're anywhere near the same value as dogs were, because it's so much easier to breed them and get them. But yeah, we're hearing that a lot of the cat charities, we're getting more calls about people asking us if we can take cats in. We can't, because we haven't got the facility. We've been sometimes we've managed to, or we get a lot of people with dogs that have got dogs and want people that have got cats and want dog friendly dogs, which we can't again always guarantee. And as you know yourself, a dog can be fine with one cat but not necessarily another, so that's something to sort of consider as well.
No, totally. I mean, it is something I've always thought with the bigger charities, you know, they always say, you know, I remember when Moles was getting on a bit, and I had Gremlin, my first cat at that point, and I thought I want to introduce a younger dog, you know, and it ended up being Mr. Binks. And so I was looking on, you know, all the sites, and all of them, for any dog I had a vague interest in, was like, cannot live with a cat, cannot live with a cat.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, right, well, that I can't adopt, you know, and absolutely, I do understand why, but in fairness, proof is in the pudding, as they say.
Yeah.
You know, from going from complete, I didn't think it was going to work with Baggy, you know, and Prudence, to it being kind of going okay. Touch wood.
Yeah, but you're experienced and you've got that knowledge, but you know, not everyone is, and I'm sure it can work. And again, it depends if you've got a sort of slightly feral cat that is happy to go in and out if the dog chases them, and you've got a garden and somewhere for the cat to run to. What we kind of wouldn't risk it with would be if someone was in a flat with no access to a garden, let's say a first or second floor, and a dog and a cat with nowhere for the cat to escape to. That for us would be too high risk. But yes, of course, you know, if it's the right sort of setup, and it's not, so we have a policy, and again, I'm sure it can work, but we take in rescue greyhounds, so we will not put the working greyhounds with cats, because when they're trained to chase things that look like cats and small furries and rabbits and things. So that's a no for us, because it's it's been sort of drummed into them since they were puppies. But you know, I'm sure there are lurchers that can live with cats, you know, non-working greyhounds and things, and a lot of the greyhounds and salukis that come into rescues have often come off, you know, from traveller sites, and again they're trained to sort of coursing and all that kind of stuff, so we do have to be really, really careful.
Yeah,
we have
absolutely.
People that have managed it. We have had people that have managed it, you know.
Yeah, and it does depend on the cats, you see, as well.
Exactly.
You know, scaredy cat. I mean, Bags isn't a scaredy cat, so that's fine. So, you know, Prudence barks at him, he stands his ground, but he was just standing his ground a bit too much. It's like he turned into a saber-toothed tiger.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Prudence, you know, accelerated, rightly so, you know, can't blame her. So, but it's got a lot better. So I've been training the cat and training the dogs. And Mr. Binks is fine because he's, you know, I call him benign, you know, he just gets on with it. And Baggy's realised, you know, he's no threat. That's all it is, really. So anyway, well, hopefully you'll meet Baggy one day.
Yes, very excited. We'll send us a photo.
Yes, no, I will. And check out Instagram. Well, Ira, look, you must get a bit depressed, do you, the current situation?
It is a bit. It's kind of, it's sadly a job that you can't really sort of finish. And a lot of people say, you must love your job. You must love it. They think it's this kind of glamorous thing, where this glamorous job that all these lovely little puppies come in and they all run off into their families. And there is that, you know, we have some amazing stories, and we've got some amazing adopters, and there are dogs that come in and they're bags of bones, and then they end up in the most amazing homes, you know. So it can be very rewarding, but it can also be very depressing, because there's not always the answer, and you can't help every dog out there. And as you say, you know, with this ban coming in, it's just so awful to think of all these dogs that we and all the other charities can't help. And I also think I want to add that there's a lot of people that try and help these dogs and situations, and sometimes by trying, it's making the problem worse, because we'll get so many calls and emails from people saying, oh, I got this dog, I picked up this dog yesterday because it wasn't being well treated, it was an XL bully and blah blah blah, and I've taken it home and it doesn't get on with my cat or with my other dog or with my kids. Can you come and get it now? And then what happens to that dog, you know, because we can't always come and get it now. So the dog's gone from one, you know, not great situation straight into another. And I think that's another thing that could be tackled. Yeah, there's some lovely people out there that really want to help, but it's not always that easy to help.
No, not with a dog that size, you know, but
or even a little dog, you know.
no,
even
I
a
know.
chihuahua with a cat can
No.
still chase the cat
Oh, no,
or bite a child.
No, absolutely. I mean, a cat could kill the chihuahua. I mean, Gremlin was big enough to kill a chihuahua. I mean, Gremlin was the one I had to worry around Mr. Binks. Gremlin hated Mr. Binks. You know, he used to stalk him. It was awful. I mean, I had to call a cat expert. I did. No, Gremlin, he was acting like a Bengal. And so I called a Bengal cat expert, right?
Oh, wow.
Anyway, I know. Anyway, that I know, bless him, you know, I miss him. You know, you do get so attached to animals. That's why I can't bear all of this that's going on, you know, selling them on the internet, buying them on the internet. I just find it totally against.
Well, let's try and get a campaign, you know, going to try and get the government to stop, you know, allowing the sales on these online platforms, and let's stop feeding these people that are breeding these dogs to die. Let's stop sort of feeding their pockets, because, you know, I don't think people really quite understand the whole implication. These aren't lovely people that want to give you a happily, you know, a little dog that you can run off into the sunset. They're not lovely people, and I'm sure there's a lot that are. But maybe let's think about where this money and who this money is going to, and see if it can go in other areas, or to the charities. I know a lot of people are probably going to be saying, well, I tried to adopt a dog and they wouldn't give me a dog because I've got kids and I've got this and I've got that, so we had to buy one. But maybe just think about that process before you encourage that ongoing breeding. And we take in ex-breeding dogs, the cockapoo type dogs from puppy farms, and those the bitches, when they come in after having been used for breeding only for, let's say, 3 to 5 years, they're so shut down, they're institutionalized, they're shut down, they've never been out. And I don't think people are necessarily seeing that or want to see it. I think they're sort of hiding that almost.
Oh God, I know people don't get it, and people are so sure. I mean, someone I know recently just bought a dog. I didn't recommend they did it, but they did it, and you know, and I could see through what they weren't seeing with the correspondence and all the rest of it. I was thinking, actually, I think this person doesn't know one end of a dog from another. All of the stuff they were sent was just copied and pasted off the internet. And it was like, anyway, but look, and hopefully it will all be all right. They're committed, you know, to the dog. So that's the main thing. But
yes,
you know, which is great. But look, all we can do is like help raise funds for All Dogs Matter so that you can continue this good work, because it must be heartbreaking, Ira, to be honest. Can really feel that for you.
Oh, it's just kind of going around you know, it's a grinding wheel that just keeps going around, and it's same sort of, it's like Groundhog Day, you know, at times.
But listen, I'm so excited because I can come to the Halloween walk, which is next Sunday, and I'm looking forward to that, because I haven't been able to do Sunday events because of exactly.
So this is amazing. Now your show's on great time, Friday nights, which is fantastic.
Yeah, a bit late, but
you know, you along judging and taking part again. That, you know, we've missed you. So.
Oh, Ira, gosh, well, I can't wait. So fingers crossed for the weather. So where's everyone meeting? It's at the Spaniards.
So we are meeting at the Spaniards Inn, which is a haunted pub in Hampstead. It's one of the oldest pubs in London. It's where Dick Turpin apparently used to ride his horse through. So the Spaniards Inn, I think it's an NW3 postcode. We actually have sold a lot of tickets already, so we're going to probably have to stop taking any more sales in by mid next week, but it's £5 an entry. You get a goodie bag for that. We're going for we all meet at the Spaniards Inn. We go for a lovely walk behind. We have the spooky dog walk, which is for about 45 minutes, and then we come back and we'll have a little competition for the best dressed witch, wizard and dog.
Oh, great. So can I help do the judging?
You can indeed, yeah. I'm not sure if we'll be able to do, if there's too many people, we'll probably just do a fancy, like a little Halloween parade, and we'll judge that way. So if you're listening, I would like to come along, get those costumes ready now. We suggest the dogs dress up after the walk, because that's Mimi barking. She's telling me it's supper time. But yes, it should be lots of fun, and it'd be great to have you along as a judge. And we are also doing, which I know you're coming along to, our fashion show. So we're doing Pause for Fashion at a great place called the Engine Rooms in near our offices in East Finchley Highgate. And details for that are online. We've got some amazing celebs that have donated clothing, which we're going to hopefully auction off to raise some funds for the dogs this Christmas. And Anna, I'm not sure if you'll be modelling again this time or just coming along with Joe in the audience, but
no, we want to model. Joe's really keen. We want to model.
You want to model? Oh wow!
Yeah, well, I did really well with my modelling. I even sold the shoes. Yeah. I sold the shoes.
Yeah, I look amazing in some silver shoes, dancing to Donna Summer. I feel love.
That was mad. I did enjoy it. I want that dress. Oh, I wish I'd auctioned. I wish I'd, bidded on myself. You know what I mean?
But there's some great stuff to be had, and rumour has it that I think Johnny Depp is hopefully donating a piece of jewellery to us to auction off. So that's not 100%, but that's what the God,
I'd have to put first reserve on it, but it would just be beyond my financial means. That's the awful thing. But first reserve on it, definitely. I might have to ask Joe to chip in.
We can all share Johnny Depp's ring.
Yeah, absolutely. Shame you can't bring and wear it in person.
Well, that would be very nice. But it would.
But let's see. But listen, Ira, look, it's good to end on a positive note, and it's so brilliant to have you championing dogs on the front line in London. So I'll see you a week today.
Lovely, great. Look forward to seeing you then.
That's our show, Mr. Binks. What did you think? Yes, it is very sad that people tend to buy and sell dogs on the internet. And you're right, it is time for Woof of the Week. In my humble opinion, buying a dog on the internet simply should not be allowed. Well, I hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, go on, rate and review the show wherever you tune into your podcasts, because it really makes a difference. Thanks again, of course, to Ira Moss for joining us today, and all the links to All Dogs Matter are in the show notes. Thanks, of course, to Mike, my producer, for all the production and music as ever. Find out more about him at Pod People UK. And for me, I'm just at Anna Webb Dogs. What's that, Mr. Binks? Yes, we will be back in your feed next Sunday. So why don't you subscribe now? It's free. And that way you'll never miss another show. Bye for now.
Pod People.